stuff. The old lady's got me on a diet. No more beer, she says. She says they're bad for me. Who the fuck thinks beer is good for you? So this is some cranberry juice with vodka. Question from a guy asking how I wired my glow plugs. Now these are grid heaters. God damn it, I keep saying it. Now this is a glow plug replacement out of my first video when I had a 6.9 IDI. And to kind of understand the difference between Fummins and Power Strokes or 6.2s, which I think is a Chevy 6.5, are grid heaters. So what is a grid heater? Let me show you. The theory of how a glow plug works. Okay, you got your cylinder here, injector, glow plug, different makes, models, different configurations, but this is the gist of it. Now, a diesel starts on compression. That needs heat. Now, when it's really cold out, heat's really not all there unless you're plugged in your block heater. But say if you're out in the parking lot, can't plug your truck in, it's where glow plugs come in. Or, in the case of Fummins, grid heaters. Now, basically, this is just a resistive element that gets red hot and preheats the cylinder for you to where when you start cranking your truck over, you'll get that heat going and give you a combustion so you can start your truck or vehicle or anything with a diesel engine. Will have some sort of cold starting aid, whether it be glow plugs, grid heater, ether injection, stuff like that. So this is actually a 6.9 that had the tip swell. This is why glow plugs are garbage, I think. This tip will swell up, it'll break off. Your tip of your plug, fall into your cylinder and crunch. Or in like IDIs, they have like a weird like hollow here to where the tip will fall off and land here. And if you're lucky, you can suck it out. If not, it gets into the cylinder head and gets smushed in there. So that's basically what a glow plug is. Now, a grid heater, saying like a Fummins, is completely different. What it doesn't do, it doesn't preheat the cylinder, it preheats the air coming in, and to where it'll constantly provide hot ass air, basically just like a toaster. This element heats up just as a glow plug. And as it draws the cylinders over, it's drawing in hot air, and that helps it combust. And it gives it more of an even burn, in my opinion. And just from owning the two, the grid heater is much more effective. So everybody's gonna have their own preferences and whatever, but I think the grid heater works much better. Okay, so I was gonna do a cool demonstration of the glow plug, but they're junk, they don't work. So I'm gonna give you the grid heater. Put y'all up there. So I took the intake horn off, and so I grounded it out where it needs to be because the gaskets might not ground it. And I'll get into explain how I wired it, but this is what it should do. Let me show the light off so you can see it. So it's on now. You gotta give it a little bit to warm up. But right now it's drawing electricity through it, and it's got a resistive current. And it's slowly heating up the coil. See it? So, that was about 15 seconds. I shut off the solenoid, and at that point, start cranking. And as air is being sucked in, it'll get superheated by that toaster, the grid heater, into each cylinder, and that's what gives it a very good cold starting ability. Okay, so now that we know how a glow plug works, I'll show you how I did mine. I actually use these stock Dodge donor solenoids. Basically, just like the starter solenoid on a Ford, way over there, same concept. Draws power from both the batteries, goes into both solenoids, splits off here, going here, one here on both of them. They're two different separate units. And then there's two signal wires per solenoid. You splice 2 and 2 because it's just one is an on signal, the other one's a run signal, which is just like a light. So those thin skinny wires ran inside the cab to a flip switch. I'll get to that later. And once it receives a 12 volt signal from the small wires, it energizes these spring-loaded plungers, which is a solenoid, comes up, contacts, and basically bridges these two to where it allows the power to jump to here, and it travels onto these big wires all the way to your grid heater, and that's what made it glow. And it just grounds out via a little grounding strap right there. So from here, basically you just gotta worry about the two little baby wires. The four, but they're just two little baby boots right here. So that's going into the cab. And from the cab, I got it wired to just a 2-position on-off, but I use that extra signal wire, which you can just get rid of. I decided to go the extra mile and bring that into the cab. I drilled a hole, grounded it, and brought the wiring through for a signal light. So when the solenoids are receiving 12 volts, it turns on. That way, you have to be, because I'm lazy, I want to let them sit, and then after the whatever 15 seconds I shut it down. But I would recommend it putting on a push button. Since I'm the only person driving this truck, I can deal with it. Until then, I want to find a relay eventually to where it'll, when I cycle the keys, it'll actually fire this autonomously for 15 seconds, and then I can fire the truck. You don't want it on a constant on or off switch, is that you could forget to leave it on, and you can kill your batteries, you can kill your grid heater, you can burn the truck down. But, so like I said, since I'm the only one driving, I'm the only one that has to worry about it. But really, that's all there is to it when you're wiring it in. One thing to look out for is chafing. There's a lot of amperage going through these wires. And so I made extra sure I double insulated everything, made sure there was no rubbing. Anywhere I could strap it down, I strapped it down. That way there's just nowhere it could go, because the last thing I want is a fire. If you don't have access to the original solenoids, you probably could salvage one off of, but if you needed to, I've heard of guys using 2 of these Ford Star solenoids. Just make sure you have a very good ground. I would even go so far as to run a ground straight from your mounting bolt to your ground on the battery. But if you use 2 of these, you will be fine. Don't take my word for it, but like I said, I'm not an electrician, but it'll work. I don't see why not, in theory. But I would just use everything stock if I can. Okay. That's enough insane rambling.